Hello and good morning to all of you, and thank you for joining our mini webinar today. So this is the mini webinar on fostering an entrepreneurial spirit at a young age. It's the first of 3 sessions we'll be having under the title Youth Entrepreneurship. And my name is Mart Veliste. I'm one of the thematic experts on SME competitiveness on the Interreg-Europe policy learning platform. And with me together today here is Luke, who will be the co-moderator. So Luke will be on your screen as well. And of course, our main speakers today are Sarah and Yannick. Please join me on the screen for a second as well so that everybody could see you. And so the 4 of us will be together here today with you for the next 30 minutes to tackle this topic. So for those of you who do not know it yet, this event is organized by the Policy Learning Platform, which is under Interreg Europe. And the Policy Learning Platform is basically a hub of sharing policymaking knowledge among all the regions in Europe. So this is a community based of Interreg Europe project partners, but also a wider audience of policymakers. Our community has nearly 20,000 members. And our website, which you can check out afterwards, has a lot of useful resources for you if you're a regional policymaker. We have a list of good practices where you can find how other regions have tried to solve policy issues with innovative solutions. But also you can find our services that we provide to regional policymakers, such as peer review services or matchmaking services. And of course, you can find our upcoming events and the recordings of our previous events, just as this webinar today. And why are we tackling the topic of youth entrepreneurship? Well, there are a few reasons for this. So first of all, we think it's very relevant to our community and other policymakers. So in our user surveys that we've conducted in the past, we've seen that entrepreneurship programs are an interest to the community. And we had a very successful mini-series in March on workplace trainings, which somewhat tackled the same topic of how to get young people involved in regional growth. So this is why we have chosen this topic here today as well. Of course, we can also look at it in a broader sense that while a lot of these Interreg Europe projects focus on SME support programs in a different sense, so they either deal with startups or how to scale businesses or how to internationalize businesses, how to support social entrepreneurship, or how to develop entrepreneurship in rural areas, then I would argue that a foundation to all of these is also the need to have entrepreneurial people. So in order for your startup program to work, you need people who are interested in enrolling in this program. And you know, often this means that you need to already spark or plant the seeds in the ideas of young people in an early age, so that when they reach adulthood, they would truly be interested in becoming an entrepreneur and then joining all the other regional innovation programs that you might have. So this is why I would call this youth entrepreneurship as a foundation to all the other SME policies as well. If you look at the EU policy level on a broader sense, then actually there is quite a small number of young people who become self-employed, and even less so become employers themselves, compared to the older segment of the working population. So there is definitely a challenge on how to get more young people becoming entrepreneurs. And also the literature says that youth entrepreneurship can solve various challenges, one of them being unemployment. Now this was also visible during the 2008 economic crisis, but it might become relevant again now after the COVID-19 pandemic, when we have a lot of layoffs. If there are not that many jobs around and there's a fierce competition, then how can the young people compete with those unemployed people who have already years of work experience behind them? So one solution is, well, maybe the young person can become an entrepreneur themselves. But of course, for this, we need programs to encourage them to do so. And also similarly with NEET youths and economic growth in general, you know, that's the purpose of entrepreneurship programs. You want to have new companies in your region and innovative people dedicating their time and effort into setting up successful businesses. And according to the study on OECD, public policy can address some of these failures that currently we have on the market, or the challenge that why we have just such a small number of young entrepreneurs. So when you will be joining us in this mini webinar series, we will learn about these different good practices from across Europe that we will showcase in the next 3 weeks. And we want you to really reflect on the programs and initiatives and think how they fit into your region. So maybe you already have some programs in your region, but perhaps you're missing something in a very specific age group. And so our event series is really like a journey across Europe, but also a journey across various education stages. So today we'll start with primary and secondary school students, but next week we will talk about vocational education students, and on the third week we will reach university students. So you can always think about whether maybe you could set up another program in your region in one of these age groups. So all together we try to inspire policymakers and regions and people working in the education sector to really further boost the entrepreneurial spirit of the next generations. And the mini webinar series is a new format we're using on the Interreg Policy Learning platform. So just to explain it briefly as well, the series are thematically linked short events. So they're all 30 minutes long every Tuesday at the same time, 10:30 Central European time. And you are very welcome to join all these sessions as one pipeline, because really we start with the very young kids ending up with the university students, but they're also standalone events. So you can choose the events that are most relevant and interesting to you and just attend them. So it's up to you to decide which ones you want to join. And this is basically it from the main introduction from my side. So I will now introduce today's speakers. So first, we will have a presentation by Sarah. Sarah is an European projects coordinator from the European Council of East-Flanders, and she is also a project partner in one of the Interreg Europe projects called Start Easy project. I also encourage you to look up the Start Easy project website. We won't be talking about it a lot today, but just briefly to let you know, this is a project that focuses on startups, how to get businesses going from ideas, and also how to reduce these sort of barriers on the public administration side to make it easier for companies to set up their businesses. So they also tackle one-stop shops and only one principle within this project. So if this interests you, I encourage you to check out their website as well, which will be in the chat. And after Sarah's presentation, we'll also invite Yannick to join us in the discussion, because some of the practices that Sarah will be talking about are implemented by Blajo, where Yannick works. And just one more thing to mention before I give the word to Sarah is that you are all very encouraged to ask your questions. You can use this GoToWebinar tool questions functions to send your inquiries. And after the presentation, me and Luke, we will take the questions that you have written and we will ask them from our speakers. But now I would like to ask Sarah to join me on screen. I will end my presentation so that you can take over.
So I hope you can all see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it. Just
okay, perfect. Great. So good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I will present to you some very interesting initiatives we have here in East-Flanders. Okay, what is happening? Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We'll still see your slide, the content slide.
Yeah, but it had to be the previous one. Okay, like this. So some very interesting initiatives we have here in East-Flanders in order to stimulate entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial skills as well in primary and secondary school students. As Mart already told you, this is a good practice within the Interreg Europe project Start Easy, a project that wants to improve policy making and to deliver smart tools that enables a conducive environment for businesses to start easily and quickly, boosting business startup activity and competitiveness in Europe. So the first two initiatives I want to talk about today come from VLAIO, the Flemish organization for young entrepreneurs that is supported by government and business. And the last example, the third one, is a project we developed ourselves. And by we, I mean ECEF, the Economic Council of East-Flanders, an organization that stimulates entrepreneurs to achieve their full potential by organizing network events, training sessions, webinars, all kinds of activities and projects in order to make entrepreneurship as attractive as possible. So let's start with a VLAIO initiative for young entrepreneurs in primary education. The thing is that VLAIO wants to invest mostly in teachers in primary education because of the fact that a well-trained teacher can influence more pupils over several years, which is a big advantage, of course. The focus is on entrepreneurial skills such as planning, flexibility, creativity, etc. And these skills are continuously trained in class because this way the children make this a part of themselves. Next to this, there is one initiative towards the children themselves, which is called a talent internship. During the last year of primary school, a teacher gives 7 interactive classes to prepare the children. The pupils learn in which entrepreneurial skill they recognize themselves the most. And let's take, for example, customer service and accuracy here. After those 7 classes, the pupils get to do a very short internship in a supermarket. So then in our case, with customer service and accuracy as our best developed skills, let's say, this would be, for example, the job of cashier in the morning and the job of shelf filler in the afternoon. The talent internship is completely free for pupils, for teachers, and for the school. This is because of the fact that the supermarket Albert Heijn offers this as a sponsorship in 50 different shops in Flanders. And then next to this, VLAIO also receives subsidies from the Flemish government, of course. So that's it for primary education. I will proceed with another VLAIO initiative towards secondary school students, and this is called the mini companies. Maybe some of you already know about them. During the last 2 years of secondary school, students and their teachers are guided into setting up their own small business and to run it during a certain period. This goes from 1 semester to 2 years. The students have to determine their missions, their targets. They have to do market research. They have to gather funds. They have to write a business plan, organize shareholders meetings. They have to follow up on administration and finance. And this way, the students get to know their interests and their professional ambitions in an educational environment where making mistakes is part of a training and not the start of some disaster. It is very important that mini companies not only support the student who wants to set up his or her own business, but also the student who is willing to train his or her entrepreneurial skills, as to prepare them on a career either as an entrepreneur or as an employee. The concept is clearly very attractive since 311 East Flemish class teams set up their own mini company last year. And then for the financial part, the mini companies are for 60% funded by the Flemish government and for 40% by partners such as ECEF, such as ourselves. Next to this, participating schools pay 15 euros per student, and this cost covers the didactic material, the VLAIO activities and webinars, and also the insurance of the students. And then another source of income is the fact that VLAIO acts as a government for these mini companies. And that means that the mini has to pay social security, VAT, and other taxes to VLAIO. In this way, they also have some more income. A lot of students who participated in a mini company during their secondary education start a student company during their high school or university, and some of them even start a company after their studies. One example is Wouter Maanhout, who organized a comedy show with his mini company, and now after all those years, he owns his very own event agency. So it is clear that there are a lot of advantages for the students. But the mini companies are not only a Flemish or a Belgian initiative. If you want to know if there are also similar projects in your region, you have to visit the website of JA Europe, which is jaeurope.org, and click on network. If your country is also involved in this kind of project, you will find there who you have to contact. So then the last example is an initiative of our own. It is called Eureka, I Do Business. It is a play which has been developed by a theater company. And in the play, two groups stand up to one another. They have to decide whether they are going to open a restaurant, a barbershop, a building company, an IT company, an online clothes shop. And then three eccentric hosts that are part of the theater company, of course. They guide the students through the adventure with only one goal, that is that within the hour, they will set up a new business. They have to go through the entire foundation process and try to bypass all possible traps. The link with reality is never far, because we show video testimonials of entrepreneurs about their experiences. And then after the play, ESEF presents an inspiring testimonial of a young entrepreneur who tells about the how and the why of his or her newly established business, about the challenges, about the obstacles, but above all, about the good parts of being an entrepreneur. Through Eureka, I Do Business, we promote young entrepreneurships and the skills needed, such as having guts, taking risks, being responsible, and developing self-esteem. And the play is presented to students in the last year of their secondary school education in East Flanders. The schools can book the play for free. And the goal is to reach 2,000 students a year. We almost always reach this goal. And knowing we launched the play in 2006, we reached already an enormous number of students in all those years, of course. Which brings us to the financial part. The development of the play all those years ago came with a unique cost of 12,000 euros. Each year we perform 8 to 10 shows, which costs approximately 10,000 euros a year. And next to that, we have an annual personnel cost of 6,500 euros a year. These costs are all covered with our own resources. Of course, we could not perform the show in the last year due to the Corona crisis. We see some overlap in the learning potential of all these initiatives, and all in all, I think the most interesting part is stimulating students during their entire school education to be creative and to develop their own talents. It gives them extra luggage for whatever future they choose, may it be as an employee or as an entrepreneur. The initiatives aim to make entrepreneurship more accessible, since a lot of young people in Flanders find it difficult to realize their own business because of the fact that they need expensive coaching, they need a lot of start capital, they don't find their way through all the administration. And thanks to this kind of coaching trajectories, students are far better prepared to realize their entrepreneurial dream. So I hope I gave you all plenty of inspiration to realize similar activities in your own regions, because it is far too important to stimulate and coach young people towards a professional career. If there are any questions, feel free to ask. And I also like to invite Yannick from Plaio to the Q&A, who can answer all of your questions on a mini company. So Yannick, feel free to join me. We are here for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for introducing all these 3 different programs in your region. They're all very interesting, and of course for our audience, you will have the recording and the slides afterwards as well, and you're welcome to reach out to find out more. But I would now maybe direct the first question to Yannick, because we started today's discussion on these 2 practices run by Plaio. One was this talent internship, and the other was the mini companies. So first one was for the primary education students, and the second one is for secondary education. Do you also, and I know that you have other programs as well, do you also somehow track how one student goes through all these different events during their growing period, and once they graduate, they've had a pipeline of different events that they've partaken?
Well, at this moment, we do not track each student as a person, but we try to start all of our programs in the school. So starting from preschool till university. We know a lot of students start very early with training their entrepreneurial skills, but we don't have some kind of card, like they can say, for each student apart. We don't have it yet, but it's a very good question. So I'll give that suggestion to my colleagues to start such a track.
No, but I think even more important in tracking is that you have a set of events or programs for different education stages, that there is already a theoretical chance that in different age groups they can attend and learn about entrepreneurship. Luke, I would give the word to you. Maybe you have a question or we have something from the audience.
Well, we don't have a question yet. We have a contribution from a participant from Finland who also mentioned some programs. I will put the link in the chat. But I have a question which comes often in that kind of initiative is how are they integrated into the curriculum? Is it full part or is it additional activity on voluntary basis or a mix of both? How are you dealing with that?
Yes, it's a mix of both. It depends on the school. It depends of which studierichting, Sarah?
Which academic preferences they have chosen, if they choose languages, if they choose to study some kind of economy, if they study maths.
Yeah, it depends on that. So sometimes it's really in class they started. Sometimes it's additional. They start the junior company then during lunchtime. They do the things. They have their meetings, but not in class. So it depends on the school.
Okay. Maybe I can ask a follow-up as well, and still talking about Vlaio's practices. But of course, Sarah, you're always welcome to pitch in, because you also, Sarah mentioned during her presentation that Vlaio is working a lot with teachers, and I wanted to ask also from you then, that what is the role of the school teachers in running these programs, the talent program and the mini companies program? And how do you get them motivated or interested in this? Because I know that teachers, are often bombarded with various opportunities as guest speakers, as trainings, as courses. So how do you get to them and encourage them to talk about entrepreneurship?
Well, we don't speak of teachers, but we call them coaches. It's like playing soccer. The students are playing soccer, and the teacher, the coach, is on the sideline, and we, the people from Vlaio, are next to them. So we try to encourage them to coach their teams, to see opportunities, not to go to the opportunities themselves as a coach, but to say to their students, over there or there's an opportunity, go for it. We also try to have to very open, to be very easy to contact. So if they have any problem, they can call us, they can send us an email, they can find a lot of information on our website. So that's the most important thing, to support them, to give them some safe environment to start coaching the teams.
And maybe I'll then ask about the Eureka program as well, that Sarah's organization is running. So just maybe a clarification, are the hosts always the same people as actors who play through it, or do you have various people, how does this work?
Well, the thing is that the play has been invented by a theater company, and it's kind of always the same actors who play the hosts. Of course, within the company, an actor can stop his career or a new actor can begin. But all in all, I think it's almost always the same actors who play the hosts. So, allez, I think it's also better for the students if they have hosts who are more experienced in leading the play, because of the fact that the play can go various ways, because of the fact that the story is never the same. So if the host is more experienced to manage all of this, I think it's also better for the students to have a better experience of the play.
Yeah, and what I like about the play, as when you explained it, that you really bring in role models with real entrepreneurs and sharing stories. That this seems to be one of these key recommendations often also made, that in order to run a successful program like this, you need to bring positive role models, that the student could envision themselves to be the same. But I was wondering, and Luke as well was wondering, do you also have some sort of results after, because we talked about mini companies, and you had this great example of how a student company became a real business. What about results of the Eureka play? Is there somehow, do you track it somehow? Do you know some interesting outcomes of this?
We know how many people watch the play or see the play every year. That's a start. But it's very hard to see or to check if students are also inspired enough only by that, because of the fact that Vlaio also has a lot of things. They can also combine the mini companies and the Eureka play during one school year in one school, or maybe other programs as well. So it's very hard to track if it's just Eureka who made students decide to start a business. I think it's always a combination of different programs to make them decide, to make them realize that they have an entrepreneurial dream. It's not just Eureka. It's not possible that it's just Eureka, or that it's just a mini company, or that it's just another program. It's always a combination. And I think another very important part in this is to have a very enthusiastic teacher or coach, like Yannick just told us, who inspires the students and who takes them along the road of entrepreneurship as well. Because if they don't have a very inspiring coach, then you can have like 1,000 initiatives like these, and it won't matter, it won't help. So it is really a combination of different things. Just to say it's only Eureka, I think that would be very ambitious.
Yeah, that's very clear.
Mart, maybe that relates a bit to we have one. I know we don't have much time left, but we have a question from the audience. If you were able to measure or to see some changing attitude towards entrepreneurship after you implemented the program, are there more schools coming? Are there teachers? Is there more requests coming to you? Something you feel, or is in some way measurable?
Yeah, we had the feeling that it was going very well, but then came Corona, then came COVID. So yeah, for now it's very hard. So we have to restart the whole thing. I think it might be good to have a smallish update as well of the play, because after all those years, of course, we have updated it. But then again, it's been 2 years since we played it. So I think we have to review it a bit. The experience is that the teachers who asked to perform the play in their schools always come back. So the year after they ask it again, and the year after they ask it again. So I think that is already proof of the fact that they like it and that students like it. But to say that we see an increase, possibly, but let's talk again in 5 years after the COVID-19 crisis.
Yeah, of course. And maybe just a remark, the question has been answered partly in the chat, but I see people asking if they will receive the slides. Yes, they will get an email with a link to the recording of the session, as well as the materials. So everything will be available.
But I will still ask one last quick question to both Sarah and Yannick. So if you would have to mention one key element of success in running these entrepreneurship programs to primary and secondary school students, what is the most important thing that somebody should keep in mind when they start planning their own program, in your opinion?
I think for us, it's the fact that the focus has to be on developing entrepreneurial skills and not entrepreneurship per se, because of the fact that not every student has to be an entrepreneur. It can be a perfectly well employee with entrepreneurial skills, who is creative, who is flexible, who takes initiative. And I think that's also I think every let's say boss would be happy to have an employee like that as well. And that is also a big advantage. So it's not only on entrepreneurship. If they have a good basis of entrepreneurial skills, they can go anyway. But I think it's very important to focus on the development of those skills. And I think about the mini companies, the talent internship, and Eureka I Do Business make sure that the focus is on those entrepreneurial skills.
Yannick, do you want to add something to this?
Just think, if you have a dream, just start with it, do it. That's the first step. Then you can go on, you can change your idea, you can do some more things. You can stop if you want. That's not the dream. So start with it. That's the first step.
Well, thank you both, Sarah and Yannick, for this presentation and this encouraging discussion. And indeed, for the audience, if you have any follow-up questions about the programs, how they're set up in detail, you are welcome to reach out to us as the thematic experts or directly with Sarah and Yannick, and we can answer the questions and provide more information. So thank you both for being here with us today. Thank you for the audience. I will just mention again that next week we will continue this journey. So we will go to vocational education. We are traveling to Andalusia, Spain, where they have an interesting hackathon event for vocational education students. And we will end today's session actually with a video of one of our services, which is a peer review service, because we can also help you set up programs like this in your region if you're really interested by bringing in other experts. So thank you once again to all. And we'll see you next time.
Do you work for a regional or a local authority that is particularly interested in exploring new policy topics in innovation, environment, low carbon economy or SME competitiveness? If so, the Policy Learning Platform is made for you, and we have a new golden service, which is the peer review. Now we are opening a call that is permanently available for you to apply, no deadline, you can apply whenever suits you, and the peer review offers you the great, excellent opportunity to interact with our thematic experts and with other peers across Europe to help you solve your policy challenge.